and welcome. I'm Asuma Katauka and you're watching World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines of this hour. US President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping have met in South Korea, leading to a series of announcements on closer trade ties. Trump has said that the US will cut the fentanyl tariff on Chinese goods entering the US from 20% to 10%. Russian strikes on Ukraine overnight has killed 1 person and wounded 17 people. The strikes have reportedly caused a major power outage across the country. US President Donald Trump orders the US military to immediately resume testing nuclear weapons for the first time in 33 years. This comes just after Russia's announcement of successful nuclear tests. More than 119 people, including police, have died in Brazil's deadliest police raid, targeting Rio's Commando Vermelho gang. Now, Rio residents have taken to streets against the deadliest police raid. The centrist D66 party has won in the Dutch elections. D66 leader now looks set to take the lead in forming the next government and could become Netherlands' youngest prime minister and first LGBTQ plus prime minister as well. French police have arrested 5 suspects in connection with the $102 million Louvre jewel heist, after 2 of them partially admitted involvement. According to the prosecutor's office, authorities have said that CCTV blind spots have delayed detection of the 4-person burglary. Lebanese President Joseph Aoun orders the army to confront any Israeli incursion in the country's south. After an Israeli raid kills a municipal worker, Aoun has said that the military must defend Lebanese territory and protect civilians, according to a statement from the presidency in Beirut. Hurricane Melissa has killed more than 30 people. While Haiti has recorded the highest number of deaths so far, the death toll may rise in Jamaica and Cuba as well. Now we start from Russia. In recent statements, the Kremlin has addressed several key issues surrounding nuclear testing and international arms agreements. The Russian government has firmly rejected claims that tests related to the Burevestnik and Poseidon were not nuclear in nature. Additionally, the Kremlin expressed concerns over the lack of notification from Washington regarding President Donald Trump's comments on potentially resuming nuclear weapons testing. Russia has also noted that it has not yet received any concrete responses from the United States about President Putin's proposal to adhere to the New START treaty after its expiration. Furthermore, the Kremlin has reiterated that if any country were to depart from the current moratorium on nuclear tests, Russia would follow suit. Moscow has confirmed its stance that there has been no indication of nuclear weapons testing. Now, for this discussion, we welcome Gilbert Doctorow. He's a Russian affairs expert, joins us live from St. Petersburg. Thank you very much, Gilbert, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, looking at this, could this nuclear military or nuclear advancements from U.S., well, we don't know particularly from U.S., but U.S. will start nuclear testing, and then the announcements coming in from Putin about about their nuclear capable submarines. Does this start a new arms race? What is this situation according to you? Gilbert, could you hear me over here?
Yeah, now I hear you.
Okay, should I repeat my question? Hello? There seems to be some network issue over here. In recent statements, the Kremlin has addressed several key issues surrounding nuclear testing and international arms agreements. Now we welcome back Gilbert Doctorow. He's a Russian affairs expert, joins us live from St. Petersburg. Gilbert, I was just asking, did you hear my question or should I repeat it?
No, I heard the question
Okay.
now. In fact, this very subject has been featured on Russian state television in the last few hours, a very authoritative talk show called The Great Game, which was today hosted by a Duma member, a very authoritative person, Mr. Nikonov, was discussing just this. And from the Russian side, there is perplexity as to why Mr. Trump said what he did about nuclear testing having been started by others. Because, as you indicated in your introduction, the Russians didn't test any weapons. They tested delivery systems for weapons. That is to say, the Borovyesnik, that is a cruise missile of extraordinary nature because it has a nuclear-powered engine, but it is not a nuclear weapon. The Poseidon, which is a very special, long-range, unlimited range, in fact, autonomous submarine or drone submarine, the Poseidon is not a weapon. It is only a delivery method for nuclear weapons. Therefore, the Russians think that Mr. Trump has misunderstood or been misinformed as to what they have been doing and announcing in the last few days.
And what do you think, what is this suggesting? And also yesterday we saw Russia said that they could let journalists into the potential military and political, Russia offering journalists to access to encircled zones amid ongoing information warfare between both sides. What do you think why Russia would offer journalists access to those zones?
I think this is a public relations maneuver. I don't think that journalists are going to accept the proposal because they could easily be killed. The notion that that they would arrive to visit with the surrounded Ukrainian soldiers who would welcome them with open arms to watch their horrific situation, I don't think that's a serious proposition. Just that Mr. Putin wanted to drive home the fact that Russian claims to have surrounded entirely 5,000, say, Ukrainian soldiers in Pokrovsk or Krasnoarmeysk, as the same city is called by the Russians, that was a propaganda statement. Let's be honest about it. The Russians are not pussycats. They also can play these games.
With that, I would like to thank Gilbert Doctorow for sharing that insight. Please stay with us as we come back to you, and now we stay on this topic. In a strategic shift, the U.S. President Donald Trump has ordered the military to resume nuclear weapons testing for the first time in 33 years. The announcement came just minutes before his high-stakes meeting with China's President Xi Jinping in South Korea. Trump has made the declaration on Truth Social while flying aboard Marine One, saying the Pentagon would conduct tests on an equal basis with other nuclear powers. The decision follows China's rapid nuclear buildup and comes shortly after Russia claimed successful tests of nuclear-powered missile and torpedo. Let's in fact listen into what the U.S. President has said.
It had to do with others. They seem to all be nuclear testing. We have more nuclear weapons than anybody. We don't do testing. We've halted it many years ago. But with others doing testing, I think it's appropriate that we do also. It'll be announced. We have test sites. It'll be announced.
In a strategic shift, the U.S. President Donald Trump has ordered the military to resume nuclear weapons testing for the first time in 33 years. The announcement came just minutes before his high-stakes meeting with China's President Xi Jinping in South Korea. Trump has made the declaration on Truth Social while flying aboard Now for this discussion, we welcome back Gilbert Doctorow. He's a Russian affairs expert, joins us live from St. Petersburg. Thank you very much for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, looking at this, what do you think why U.S. is resuming nuclear weapons testing, and do you think there is any chance that U.S. could elongate their nuclear testing or nuclear deal that they were, which is set to expire at the end of this year with Russia?
Well, if Mr. Trump goes ahead with this, with his plans to conduct nuclear tests, presumably underground, then he will be violating an agreement, an international agreement to which the United States and Russia are both signatories. That is that there's been a 30-year ban on any such tests. The only recent nuclear test to have taken place was a test conducted by North Korea, not by Russia, not by anybody else. Therefore, Mr. Trump's announcement to the press on his airplane was completely false, or what he said about going into his meeting with Chairman Xi was false. The Russians haven't tested it. If the United States needs to test, because the United States needs to upgrade its nuclear triad, well, that's one story. But it has nothing to do with anything the Russians have or have not done. Russian estimates are that it would take $1 trillion for the United States to upgrade and modernize its nuclear triad if it is done in a conventional way, and $2 trillion if it does it in an expedited way. So Mr. Trump has to find $2 trillion if he wants to proceed with what he was talking about today. As for the Russians, they have already modernized their nuclear triad. But of course, there are always some things you can do additionally. And that is why Mr. Putin said that if the Americans do tests, we will do tests.
And what about the United States, about the President Putin's proposal to adhere to the New START treaty after its expiration? Why do you think U.S. has not responded yet as time is ticking?
Well, as we all know, Mr. Trump is not enthusiastic about multilateral agreements and not enthusiastic about agreements which constrict the freedom of action of the United States. And the START agreement does precisely that, because it sets limits on the strategic nuclear warheads and delivery systems of each side. Moreover, Mr. Trump's argument would be that it's not much very sensible to have an agreement limiting our U.S. numbers of missiles and launchers, because China is very quickly expanding its nuclear triad, and then we have to have some way of matching not just one country, Russia, but two countries, Russia and China. So there's a logic to what Mr. Trump is saying. At the same time, let me explain that while so many serious, conscientious, well-meaning people are horrified at the idea that the New START treaty that was last negotiated under Obama will not be renewed, the reality is that Mr. Putin's proposal was not to negotiate quickly a renewal. His proposal was simply to extend the existing limits on warheads and launchers enshrined in the New START treaty, and to give one additional year to negotiate a replacement treaty. That sounds good, but it fails to take into account that the real value of that treaty was not in the numbers of missiles and launch and warheads. The real value was in the permanent, ongoing inspections and meetings of expert teams from the Russian and U.S. sides. This was an exercise in dialogue and to ensure that there were no misunderstandings on either side of the intentions and capabilities of the other side. That was the real value of the START treaty. And Mr. Putin said nothing about that because Russia has pulled out of its obligations under New START to admit American inspectors into its nuclear facilities. And the reason was very simple, because in all but name, the two countries are presently at war. And it was absurd, as Mr. Putin correctly observed, to admit Americans into Russia's nuclear facilities, including its latest nuclear facilities, when the two countries are essentially at war.
Right. Thank you for sharing that introspect. And Gilbert, to what extent should European NATO members increase their own defense commitments in response to these changing U.S. and Russia's stance, especially in nuclear military capabilities? And also, how might the U.S. troop reduction on NATO's eastern flank affect the overall deterrence?
Well, first on this question of cooperation within Europe for nuclear defense. Of course, this exists between three countries, essentially. Offers and discussions that are going on between Germany and England, and discussions going on between Germany and France. The two nuclear powers in Europe are France and the UK. In point of fact, the more relevant nuclear power is France, because it has land-based nuclear missiles that are very capable. The British are more vulnerable. Their only nuclear weapons are on board Trident submarines, which have not been particularly well performing in recent history, and which are highly vulnerable to being blown out of the water by Russian submarines. So the ability of France and England, separately or together, to provide Germany and more broadly the EU member states with a nuclear umbrella is an attractive talking point for Mr. Macron in particular, because he would offer this umbrella in exchange for investments to expand his umbrella coming from the other member states. France itself doesn't have the money to expand its nuclear arsenal. So the whole project from France's standpoint is to get money, pump money out of the other member states. Whether this will protect Europe from Russian nuclear attack is questionable. Some will say questionable, others will say is totally useless. The Russians have 2,000 or more.
Sorry, Gilbert, we have a breaking news. Thank you very much, Gilbert Doctorow, for joining us and sharing that insight. We have a breaking news coming in from India. At least 17 children were rescued in Mumbai, India, after a man held them hostage in the neighborhood of Powai. The suspect, who identified himself as Rohit Arya, has released a video message before the incident. In the video, Arya has stated that he chose this situation instead of committing suicide to force conversations with unspecified people. He had further warned that the slightest wrong move would trigger him, which will threaten him to set the place on fire. He has further stated that he was not a terrorist. Police said they mounted a rapid response after the video circulated and managed to secure the children shortly after. However, Mumbai police has now confirmed that all the children are safe and have been handed over to their guardians, adding that further details will be shared after due verification. Now for this, we are joined by Unaiza Gadia. He's a correspondent, joins us live from Mumbai. Thank you very much for joining us, Unaiza. What more can you tell us about the situation with this Mumbai and Powai?
This incident happened later in the evening, and where this person, the name of the accused is Rohit Arya. He used to conduct classes for talented students to enter in Bollywood movies. So for that, he used to arrange the auditions. So these students he has invited for auditions, and today, in fact, he has planned everything, and he has this in his mind that when these students will come in for audition, he will trap down them, and he will then definitely, whatever his problem is, he will definitely send out the message to the authorities and to whoever. He clearly said that in his message, that he doesn't want to harm anybody, but yes, he wanted to convey the message to the concerned person. So now the situation is under control. The police, through the bathroom, entered in the room and nabbed Rohit Arya, and somehow rescued 17 to 18 students from Rohit Arya, and all the students are safe and handed over to the parents, to their guidance. But the police has taken this threat really seriously, and they have nabbed Rohit Arya, and trying to find out what was the reason behind his this sort of criminal activities. Although police has taken this entire information, that as we have seen in the videos also, that of course Rohit Arya was in trouble, and he tried to bring out the solution which he was not getting, and he has also said that in his video that he was really in trouble, and because of that trouble, he has taken this step and kidnapped the students. But police has, when we spoke to the Powai police, and police has clearly given the statement that whatever the reason, Rohit Arya must be having, but he has definitely committed a crime, and for that, the police is on the investigation and trying out the real reason the behind for his crime. But as of now, the information we got is he's just unwell. He's mentally unwell, and he's not mentally sound. But again, in this situation, police is trying to find out Rohit Arya's background, like what is his previous background, whether he's habitual of doing this sort of criminal activities, or he has some criminal records in the past also. Where is his residence, and where he exactly belongs from, and trying to find out what exactly the actual reason behind his crime, because whatever Rohit Arya has taken the step is really not the way
Yes.
things has to be taken in the hands. Police has, we've seen the police action, the quick action, because of this activity,
Yes.
the entire
Unaiza, thank you very much for joining us and sharing that insight. That was Unaiza Gatia. She is a correspondent, joined us live from Mumbai. Now we move on to our next news, to Middle East. According to Lebanon's state-run national news agency, Israel has launched new airstrikes on southern Lebanon, targeting the areas of Mahmoudiyeh and Jarmak. The Israeli military has stated that the strikes hit Hezbollah infrastructure, but details on casualties or damage are still unclear. The attack marks another alleged breach of the U.S.-brokered ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah that's been in place since November last year. Meanwhile, Israeli forces have confirmed an overnight ground incursion into the Lebanese village of Blida. An Israeli military spokesperson has stated that troops opened fire after spotting a suspect posing an immediate threat. Lebanese officials report that a municipal employee was killed inside the local government building, which Israel claimed without evidence was being used by Hezbollah. Now for this discussion, we welcome Sasha Machta. He's a political commentator, joins us live from Jerusalem. Thank you very much, Sasha, for joining us again. Good to see you. Sasha, thank you. Sasha, now Lebanese government says that Israel has not given any of evidence for this attack, but what is the situation? What more can you tell us about this?
Yeah, so first I'd like to express my relief that the 17 children that were taken hostage have been rescued, so I'm very happy about that. Regarding your question, I since the ceasefire, since the U.S. brokered ceasefire came into effect, Israel has been enforcing this ceasefire. Israel has been carrying out strikes in southern Syria and maintained 5 posts along the southern area of Lebanon, because as we know, Hezbollah still has some sort of presence in southern Lebanon despite Israel totally degrading their capabilities. But again, last night, Israel there was a ground incursion in the southern Lebanon to reach a Hezbollah post, a Hezbollah position. Hezbollah is not supposed to be active in Lebanon, in southern Lebanon. Hezbollah is supposed to disarm, and Israel is actually helping enforce this deal so that Hezbollah will not become a threat to the northern civilians of Israel. And about the statement by the president of Lebanon, I think it's important to take it with a grain of salt and understand the domestic pressure that he must be caving to or feeling when calling out Israel for this breach of sovereignty, in his words, because of course it's not a popular move to support Israel in the goal of taking down Hezbollah's capabilities. That being said, I think that Hezbollah has effectively created a state within a state for the past years, a state within a state, and Lebanon has been in a situation of total chaos and havoc where Hezbollah is the de facto army, and the army has not as much power as Hezbollah terror army. But now we see an effort on behalf of Israel, but also backed by the US to totally disarm Hezbollah. So I think that Israel is doing a favor, and I hope that Lebanon were to collaborate in this effort of disarming Hezbollah in the south so that the Lebanese country and the people can live under a stable government and not
Yes.
be basically occupied by a terrorist organization.
Yes, Sasha, thank you very much for sharing that. Please, let's look at Lebanese President Joseph Aoun's reaction. Now, Lebanon's President Joseph Aoun has now reacted to the situation. Aoun has ordered the country's armed forces to confront any Israeli incursions in the south following an overnight Israeli raid that has killed a municipal worker in the village of Blida. In a statement released after a meeting with the army chief, Aoun has directed the military to defend Lebanese territory and ensure the safety of citizens in what he has described as liberated southern areas. The order comes after Israeli forces entered southern Lebanon and opened fire inside a municipal building, claiming it was being used by Hezbollah, a claim Lebanese officials have dismissed. Now we welcome back Sasha Majda. He's a political commentator, joins us live from Jerusalem. Thank you very much, Sasha, for staying with us. Sasha, as we were just talking about this, and you also mentioned that Lebanese army is not strong enough to disarm Hezbollah on its own. What are the challenges that they face, and why are they weak?
For many years, for decades, Hezbollah has building up a terror regime that's been funded by Iran. Money has been transferred, millions and millions, billions of dollars have been funneled into Lebanon to create a proxy for Iran in the simple goal of destroying the state of Israel. Hezbollah's sole raison d'etre, the whole reason for their existence, is in fact to attack and to be the first front against Israel in Iran's active war of destruction. So the main challenge is that Hezbollah has for years been creating these massive capabilities that are equivalent to that of an army. But that being said, they have military capabilities of an army, but no responsibilities for their people. So they've been able to channel and funnel all that money into pure military activity and let the people, the Lebanese people, suffer under this state within a state. So the main challenge is that the Lebanese army has been very weak over the past years, and now there's been an effort, and there's been a strong effort backed by the US and backed by the new Lebanese administration to become the only army in Lebanon, and that means getting rid of Hezbollah. But the Lebanese army needs assistance. It needs Israeli assistance because Israel, one, cannot trust a weak Lebanese army to do this job for themselves. Israel cannot give their basic security requirements to the hands of a weak Lebanese army, but at the same time, Lebanon cannot openly rely on Israel to do this because it's a very unpopular move. As I said before, no one wants to give up their sovereignty, and be seen as a country collaborating with Israel. It's very unpopular in the region. So I think the main challenge is gonna be, how is Israel gonna work with Lebanon to disarm Hezbollah, to make sure that Hezbollah is no longer a threat to the Israelis, but also no longer a threat to the Lebanese people that are basically held hostage by this terror group that's ruling their country.
Yes, indeed. With that, I would like to thank Sasha Machta for joining us as a political commentator from Jerusalem. Thank you very much. Now we move on to Europe. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has lashed out at a Senate committee probing a corruption scandal that's threatening to topple his fragile left-wing government, calling the inquiry a circus. The hearing comes amid intense pressure over alleged kickbacks for COVID-era contracts that have ensnared several of Sanchez's former allies, including ex-Transport Minister José Luis Ábalos and senior socialist figure Santos Jardín. Police raids on socialist headquarters and fresh indictments have deepened the crisis, with opposition leader Alberto Feijó accusing Sanchez of lying to stay in power. Sanchez denies any wrongdoing, insisting he neither knew nor benefited from the scheme. He's unveiled new anti-corruption reforms to calm tensions with coalition partner Sumar, as separate probes targeting his wife and brother continue to fuel political turmoil in Madrid. Now we move on to Asia. China has pledged to expand its agricultural trade with the US, but without offering clear details on when or how much it plans to buy. Following Trump's meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping, Trump has told reporters that Beijing would begin purchasing tremendous amounts of soybeans and other farm goods immediately. However, China's Commerce Ministry statement stopped short of specifying the volume or timeline of those purchases. The lack of clarity has disappointed investors, with Chicago soybean futures falling with about 2% after the announcement. China remains the world's largest soybean buyer and was once the biggest market for U.S. farmers before trade tensions and tariffs prompted a shift towards South American suppliers. The China Manned Space Agency announced that Zhang Lu, Wu Fei, and Zhang Hongzhang will lead the Shenzhou 21 crewed mission, with Zhang Lu as a commander. The spacecraft will launch at 11:44 p.m. Beijing time Friday from the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. This marks the sixth manned mission since China's space station entered its application phase and the 37th flight of its manned program. For the first time, 4 space mice, 2 males and 2 females, will join the crew to study how mammals adapt to microgravity. The astronauts will spend about 6 months in the orbit conducting experiments, spacewalks, and equipment installation, and will welcome the Tianzhou 10 cargo ship and Shenzhou 2020 crew before Shenzhou 20 returns to Earth. That's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.